Hello, everyone, and welcome to Simplify and Secure Your Hadoop Environment with Hortonworks and Centrify, presented by Centrify. I'm Joni Bletcher, a longtime tech editor, and I'll be moderating this webinar. Our speakers today are Vinod Nair, Senior Manager, Hortonworks, and Satish Veerapuneni, Senior Product Manager, Centrify. You can read their full bios on the right side of your window. Just a few technical notes before we begin. If you have trouble reading a slide, please hold and drag the right corner of the slide window to enlarge. Please also disable your pop-up blocker to participate in the interactive parts of this presentation. To download a copy of the slides, please click the Download Slide widget at the bottom of your screen. We will follow the presentations by a Q&A session. Please submit your questions during or after the presentations using the Q&A box at the right of your window. Okay, now, let's begin. Vinod, please go ahead.
Thank you, Joni. Good morning, and thank you for making the time to attend this webinar today. My name is Vinod Nair, and I work at Hortonworks in the Partner Product Management team. I'm presenting today jointly with Centrify, a key partner of Hortonworks, and we are proud to be hosting this webinar with them. I will start today with an overview of Hortonworks and the work we do. We will then dive into the topic at hand, securing Hadoop and the work done in Apache Hadoop in building a secure enterprise-grade platform. We also highlight the close partnership between Hortonworks and industry leaders like Centrify in building comprehensive security for enterprise Hadoop. Hortonworks is focused on delivery of enterprise-grade Hadoop as a platform that enables the modern data architecture. We work solely in the broad open source community with a focus on innovation at the core of Apache Hadoop and all the related projects that deliver on key enterprise-grade requirements for governance, security, and operations. A little history of Hadoop and Hortonworks for those of you who are unfamiliar with us. Hadoop started in 2005 when Yahoo developed a new technology to improve their most critical application, search. The job was to store the contents of the internet and process this data so users could search quickly. Traditional approaches were both technically and commercially impractical. The result is the Apache Hadoop project that delivered large-scale storage, HDFS, and processing, MapReduce. Yahoo was committed to the open source approach and worked with the Apache Software Foundation so the open community could greatly accelerate development of Hadoop. In 2011, the core Hadoop team left Yahoo to form Hortonworks, this with the blessing of Yahoo, with one singular goal: evolve Hadoop into enterprise Hadoop, a completely open source data platform that enables the modern data architecture. Since then, we have grown to 650 plus employees and have partnered closely with over 1,100 companies, all of whom share this vision: enable the modern data architecture with Hadoop so customers can effectively manage exploding data volumes. And as of Q1 of this year, we're proud to have over 437 subscription customers. Our goal since our inception has been very simple: enable the modern data architecture with enterprise Hadoop. Everything we do is with this architectural goal in mind. Before we dive into Hadoop and its role within the modern data architecture, let's set some context for why Hadoop has become this important. Simply put, there is an explosion of new data sources that are generating data at an exponential rate when compared with traditional sources of data in the enterprise. Looking forward another 3 to 5 years, more than half of the data under management within the enterprise will be from these new data sources. Existing approaches for data management have become both technically and commercially impractical. Technically, since these systems were never designed to store or process vast quantities of data, especially unstructured data. Commercially, the licensing structures with the traditional approach are no longer feasible. These two challenges, combined with the rate at which data is being produced, predicated a need for a new approach to data systems. Enter Hadoop. Faced with this challenge, the team at Yahoo had conceived and created Apache Hadoop to address this challenge. They were convinced that contribution of this platform into an open community would speed innovation. This was within the governance of the Apache Software Foundation. This introduced us with two significant advantages. Not only could we manage new data types at scale, but they were now commercially a feasible approach. However, there were still significant challenges. The first generation of Hadoop was designed and optimized for batch-only workloads. It required dedicated clusters for each application, and it didn't integrate easily with many of the existing technologies present in the data center. Over the past several years, the range of components in the Hadoop ecosystem has evolved to include all the core requirements of any data platform. One, data access, the emergence of multiple access engines spanning SQL, NoSQL, scripting, streaming, and much more. The architectural center of Hadoop, which is Yarn, ensures that all of these can take part in Hadoop seamlessly. For security, to address the key requirements of authorization, access, audit, and data protection. A fourth pillar of operations, the tools that deploy and manage the Hadoop clusters. And finally, governance and integration for loading and managing data within the cluster. To solve this problem, Hortonworks has created the Hortonworks Data Platform, completely in the open source. Having looked at Hadoop, let's take a look deeper into how security is handled in Hortonworks Data Platform. With Hadoop, enterprises are adopting a data lake architecture of storing and processing large sets of data within the same platform, powered by Yarn as the resource management orchestrator. With the increased adoption of Hadoop, the security requirements are also increasing. Enterprises are under increased external threats, and data security is an essential element of corporate strategy. CISOs within enterprises are looking at Hadoop as an open platform, storing all kinds of enterprise data and offering different methods for accessing the same data. Customers are looking at the Hadoop platform to provide a centrally administered method to define policies and able to enforce these policies across all the different components that form the Hadoop platform. This means that irrespective of how users interact with the platform, consistent and granular access control should be applied across all access patterns. Security is also not restricted to access control, but need to be applied across layers of authentication, authorization, audit, and data protection. Hortonworks' view is that security needs to be an enabler for big data use cases, not an inhibitor. Hortonworks Data Platform is the only distribution offering comprehensive and complete security for Hadoop. Hortonworks has led the community efforts in building security offerings across all four pillars of security: authentication, authorization, auditing, and data protection. Hortonworks also differentiates by providing a fifth layer of centralized administration so that enterprises can manage security in one place, rather than in the 20-plus components that form the Hortonworks Data Platform. We are leading efforts in the open source community for projects like Apache Ranger and Apache Knox, and partnering with industry leaders like Centrify to extend the reach of our security offerings efforts beyond Hadoop. It starts with authentication, where a user is challenged to provide credentials to access the Hadoop cluster. After a user has been authenticated, he needs to have proper authorization to access data. Maybe some data is accessible only to one department like human resources, which may not be offered to other departments like marketing. Audits create a log of user actions, so we have a record of who has done what with the data. It is also critical to log administrator actions so we know when an access policy was set or modified. Finally, data protection provides encryption for data at rest or in use. Tying all of this together is a central administration framework so one can manage security from one place with consistency across all Hadoop components. The Hortonworks Data Platform offers in-depth security across all layers of security. In the authentication layer, HDP offers Kerberos and perimeter security through Apache Knox. HDP offers Apache Ranger for centralized security administration, fine-grained authorization, and deep auditing. In the data protection front, HDP offers support for wire encryption out of the box. And starting with HDP 2.3, we are also going to introduce support for HDFS file encryption. HDP security offerings work in conjunction with existing enterprise security investments in infrastructure investments like IAM solutions that Centrify provides. In the next section, we will learn how Centrify, together with security offerings within HDP, offer an integrated, easy-to-use, comprehensive security layer for any kind of big data deployment. With that, I'm going to pass the baton on to my colleague from Centrify, Satish.
Thank you, Vinod. This is Satish. Hello, everybody. I work in product management team here at Centrify. Today, for the agenda, I'd like to first tell you a little bit about Centrify, then talk about some of the identity and access management challenges some of our customers had, right, and how Centrify solves them. Then give you a quick demo of how Hortonworks and Centrify can work together, right, on all the 3 A's, authentication, authorization, and auditing, and finally summarize everything through a case study. So Centrify is an enterprise security company in the identity management space. We primarily help unify identity across cloud, mobile, and data center while leveraging your existing identity infrastructure. We've been around for about 11 years now. We have about 450 employees with a global sales and support team. We primarily address 2 major IT challenges, right? The shift to cloud and mobile and security as the perimeter dissolves. We're trusted by over 5,000 customers, 50% of Fortune 50, and have a retention rate of about 97%. We have partnerships with Microsoft, Apple, AVG, and Samsung, and have over 250 reseller partners. So over the last couple of years, we've been working with over 40 customers across 6 major verticals, enabling identity and access management for their Hadoop clusters. We primarily see 3 challenges that customers face. The first challenge is around leveraging existing identity infrastructure. So most of the customers don't want to bring up a parallel Kerberos infrastructure. Instead, they want to leverage their existing Active Directory infrastructure for Hadoop purposes, obviously because of the management overhead of a new identity infrastructure. Also, Hadoop has rapidly evolving applications, and enterprises want to leverage a consistent identity and access management mechanism across all the applications. The second challenge is around compliance. As Hadoop becomes the data hub for the enterprise, and as BUs put in a lot of customer data or valuable customer data within the data hub, having the right controls to be compliant becomes very critical for the companies. And that's the second challenge. The third challenge is around management. So as the projects move from pilot to production, we increasingly see IT helping with management of the Hadoop cluster. So the challenge here is figuring out the right amount of privileges for the IT department. So for example, if we go back to PCI DSS or regulatory compliance reason, IT doesn't need access to the data. But figuring this out and putting it in a framework to actually manage all of this centrally is a challenge today for IT departments. With that, Centrify Identity and Access Management for Hadoop helps both simplify as well as secure Hadoop clusters by providing Active Directory-based identity and access management for all your Hadoop environments, as well as helping with role-based privilege management. And the third thing is we also help with session auditing for compliance reasons. And the way we do that is by having our nodes run on, by having our agents run on every node within your Hadoop environment, and our management tools that run on Windows machines that are Active Directory joined. So when companies want to leverage their existing Active Directory environment, we see a lot of our customers are geographically dispersed, especially because they are multinational companies. And what that brings on the table is their Active Directory environment is pretty complicated. What we mean by that is they have multi-forest, multi-trust, complex trust, multi-domain architecture, and Centrify helps tie the Hadoop environment back to an enterprise-grade Active Directory environment. To secure your cluster, we extend Hortonworks' Kerberization to user access. Hortonworks natively supports Kerberizing the Hadoop cluster for all the service accounts through Ambari. We extend that to user access as well. So as a result, you would have a single sign-on experience for both end users as well as IT users. Since we are built on standard interfaces like PAM, NSS, LDAP, SAML, and we also have plugins for Apache and so forth, any application that uses those interfaces can leverage our single sign-on experience and provide that to their end users. So as Hadoop projects become more mainstream, we see data scientists who need read-write access to their scripts, IT admins who need privileges to manage config files and, for example, to restart services and so forth within the Hadoop cluster. And Hadoop admins who could typically come from business units need privileges to grant within Ambari or Hive or HDFS and so forth. What Centrify helps with is it gives you a centralized tool through our access manager to both define as well as enforce the least privileges for every user types. And net-net, what this helps with is it would help eliminate use of root privileges for all but break glass scenarios. On auditing, we record everything that the user sees. So you can imagine a video camera sitting on the user's shoulders while someone is doing anything on their session, right? And this is needed, again, for compliance reasons as well. And this extends what natively Ranger provides as well. Ranger, like Vinod was mentioning, would help with logging all the events that the user has done within the Hadoop framework, and we extend that into the operating system. With that, let me pause very quickly and help explain why we think Hortonworks and Centrify are better together. So the way I look at it is on access, Hortonworks helps with integration through Ambari, helps with integration with Active Directory or LDAP. What Centrify does is it extends LDAP to complex Active Directory environment, right? And for us, complex means you have multi-forest, multi-domains within that forest, and then you have complex trust relationships. Hortonworks helps Kerberize the service accounts. What this helps with is for services to talk within the cluster from one node to the other, Kerberizing the service accounts helps secure those communications. Centrify extends that to user accesses, right? Whether it is end users or whether it is privileged users like IT users or BU admins. On authorization, Hortonworks does role-based access controls within the apps that reside inside Hadoop. For example, Hive through Ranger plugins and so forth. Centrify extends the role-based access controls to operating system level, right? And then on auditing, like I was just mentioning, Hortonworks does audit log activity, and it all is stored as part of Ranger. Again, it has very good visibility within the Hadoop application space. What Centrify does is it extends that monitoring of session, and it records the session like a camera that is sitting on the user's shoulder at the operating system level. With that, let me very quickly play a demo for all the three use cases that I mentioned.
Let me demonstrate to you how Centrify provides Active Directory-based identity and access management for Hortonworks' cluster. In my environment, I have a domain controller. I have a member server, which is a Windows 7 machine. You could literally have any Windows machine that is Active Directory joined. And on the member server, I have Access Manager, Centrify's Access Manager installed, which primarily helps manage identity for any Hadoop nodes. And then I have 3 nodes in my Hadoop cluster. On the first node, I'm logged in as Adam using my Active Directory credentials, and on my third node, I'm logged in as root using my local credentials. And all the nodes have Centrify agent running. The primary purpose of the Centrify agent on each of the Hadoop nodes is to tie the Hadoop node back to Active Directory. Now, to Kerberize or to secure the cluster, there are 2 aspects to it. The first, I need to Kerberize the service accounts. The second, I need to Kerberize the user access. So to Kerberize the service accounts, I've used the Ambari's wizard to help Kerberize the cluster, except for managing the Kerb5 config. The management of the Kerb5 config is done by Centrify. All the service accounts are automatically created in Active Directory and managed by Ambari. Centrify helps Kerberize all user access. So let me demonstrate that very quickly to you. So you can see that on node 1, I'm logged in as Adam, and node 3, I'm logged in as root, which is a local user. Adam, on the other hand, is an Active Directory user. The way I know that is when I do AD info, I know that this machine is joined to Active Directory, and when I do klist, I know that I have a Kerb ticket for Adam. On the other hand, on root, I know that the machine is joined to Active Directory, but when I do klist, I don't have a Kerb ticket. So what this means is Adam is part of the secure Hadoop cluster, and hence he can query Hadoop file system, whereas root, on the other hand, can't query the Hadoop file system, right? So when he tries doing that, he gets an error because he is not a Kerberized. Let me show you how Centrify can help enforce least privilege access via our role-based privilege management to the Hortonworks cluster. Going back to Access Manager, using the hierarchical zone technology that we have, I was able to first define various roles and the rights associated with each of the roles, and then tie that back to Active Directory users or groups. So for example, if I go to my Hortonworks cluster that I have defined as a child zone and right click and look at all the Unix effective users, you can see that there are 3 Active Directory users who have access to this cluster. But each of them have different roles, like Adam is a data scientist, Holly is a BU admin, and Tim is an IT admin, and each of them have different rights. If Adam or Holly wants to restart a HTTPD service, now as Adam, if I want to restart the HTTPD service, I don't have access to restart that. As opposed to if Holly wants to restart the HTTP service, as a BU admin, she does. As opposed to Adam, as a data scientist, doesn't have the privilege to restart a HTTPD service. All of this works because Centrify agent gets all the rights from Access Manager and enforces. Let me show you how Centrify helps record sessions for compliance in Hortonworks' cluster. So on my domain controller, I have the Centrify audit software, primarily the audit manager, which helps with setup as well as management of the audit infrastructure, the analyzer, which helps view all the logs. Typically, customers choose installing the Centrify audit software on the member server. In my case, I chose domain controller just for the demo, but usually it is installed on the member server. I have a DA agent running on the node where Holly is logged in. DA, when I do DA info, I know that there is an agent running, and this is the agent that is responsible for recording all the sessions. Now let's go ahead and look at the session that was recorded when Holly was running the HTTPD service restart command. So I actually pulled that up beforehand, and this was the session. So for example, you can see that the session was ended at 4:48 p.m. on 6/2. So when I click on that, what I could see is on the left hand side, I could see a bunch of commands that Holly has run, and specifically I was interested in do service command. So it shows me all the times when Holly has run the service HTTPD restart command. And by the way, do is Centrify's modified version of sudo that helps with privilege management. With that, I just showed you how Centrify helps record sessions for compliance in Hortonworks' cluster. Thank you.
Let me summarize this through a case study just to ensure that all these use cases come together well. This is a customer in the financial services space who has used both Hortonworks as well as Centrify. They have 2 clusters of about 4,000 nodes each, and they plan to deploy 30 more clusters. Primarily, they had 3 problems. The first was they wanted to secure access to Hadoop and integrate to Active Directory. They wanted to be SOX compliant. They also wanted privileged access visibility within the cluster. So the solution that they used was Centrify Server Suite Enterprise Edition. So the Enterprise Edition has both access, privilege management, as well as audit capabilities as part of the suite. Net-net, the benefit to the customer in the financial services sector was they were able to leverage their existing investment tools and process that they had with Active Directory. They were able to be SOX compliant, and we also give you the capability to do reporting on for compliance. And then they were able to have improved visibility of access, entitlements, and activities. Before I pass it over to Joni, there are a few additional resources that might be helpful if you want to learn more. One is big data security site that we have on Centrify that gives you more information and more documents. We also offer a free trial, so I encourage all of you guys to please try it out and do let us know if you have any questions. With that, over to you, Joni.
Thank you. Now let's move on to the Q&A. We have lots of great questions, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. Our first question. Hadoop provides audit logs for any user access to the system. What does Centrify's auditing solution provide in addition to Hadoop's audit logs?
Yeah, so Hadoop natively, through Ranger, provides audit logs. So the logs are a sequence of events, right? So what that doesn't capture is what happens at the operating system level. So if someone logs into the operating system and they're trying to run a sudo command, right? So things like that, and if they're moving into a config file and they're doing something within a config file, you'd want to ideally capture all of that. And the best way to capture all of that is to capture what the user is seeing, right? And that is the view of Centrify, right? So Centrify gives you the capability to record everything that the user is seeing on his screen. And we manage all of those files, and we actually leverage your existing infrastructure to store the files, and we help you index all the commands that the user has done as well. Again, so this is completely complementary to what Ranger provides. Ranger provides audit logging capability. Centrify provides session video capture capability. So these are both complementary.
All right, our next question is, I am currently using Apache Knox to authenticate against AD. What benefits would I achieve by using Centrify?
Yeah, so Centrify, Apache Knox, or even Ambari for that matter, today does a pretty good job of tying to LDAP, right? There are two key challenges though. The first challenge is around very complex Active Directory environments. Again, when I say complex, you have a lot of domain controllers within a forest, and then if you have a lot of forest, that just becomes a bigger problem. And then if you have multi-trust relationship between the forests, it just adds to the complexity, right? So when it comes to the very complex Active Directory environment, Centrify has been working with customers over the last 11 years to tie their Unix and Linux environments to complex Active Directory environments, right? That's where I think we bring in a lot of learnings over the last decade plus, right? That can be leveraged here to very easily tie your Hadoop environment to Active Directory. So for a very simple Active Directory environment, the native tools that Ambari provides or Knox provides should work. But when the environment becomes complicated and you want high availability and so forth, right, then you would want to leverage tools that are tested for that.
All right. Well, that was our last question, so we're going to end a little bit early. Thank you for attending this Fierce Live webinar and submitting so many great questions. I'd like to thank our speakers for participating and Centrify for presenting today's webinar. This webinar has been recorded. You will be able to access the recording within 24 hours on the same page you used to register for this event. Thank you again for joining, and we look forward to seeing you at future events.